I'm Scott Callan, Chairman and CEO of JDI. We're working off of the FY25 so the March 2025 full year corporate presentation. We made some announcements today that are deeply fundamental to the future of JDI in a positive way, and so I will be talking about some of those announcements in detail. So this is really more about the forward-looking outlook than the backward-looking earnings. Broad overview of the year, as we made a number of choices, some hard choices in order to get ourselves to profitability, and with more announcements today. We are ending production at our Mobile fab by March 2026 to drive our Beyond Display strategy. I'll talk about that a little bit in more detail. This is a high-cost G6 fab. G6 sizing is appropriate if you're going to do displays. We don't think displays are our future, certainly not mass market displays. We will be an ongoing display manufacturer. It's going to be micro displays and smaller displays that take advantage of our core technology. In addition to that, we will be operating as a multi-fab out of Ishikawa, which is a much lower cost fab. It's actually only got a quarter of the operating costs of Mobile. It's got a G4.5 substrate, which makes it far better for producing sensors and advanced semiconductor packaging, which we think is the future of JDI. We have a broad set of technology capabilities and we're deploying them in an area. We are continuing to be in discussion. Again, this is a fabless model, so we won't have our asset-heavy fab backing this to take our eLEAP technology, which is the world's most advanced OLED technology, into a global ecosystem with foundry partners. We highlight that we have a strategic investment and partnership with OLEDWorks in the United States. I'll talk about it a little bit more later. I think it's really exciting. There's an opportunity to do something really, really substantial in the United States. They're fantastic partners, and we look forward to achieving that for all of you. Broad overview is we had a tough year. Welcome to JDI's past, and we need to make a significant number of changes. Sales were down 21% year on year. We had lower operating profit and EBITDA. We took some losses from restructuring and shutting down our Tottori fab, and now we'll be shutting down our Mobile fab. We need to do something radically different, and we are. Today's announcements, and I'll talk about some of these in more detail later. We are doing a significant workforce reduction. This was kind of my final choice for the firm as JDI CEO. I deeply apologize to our employees because we are doing something that impacts them and their lives. And if we don't do it, we don't have a future as JDI. But I express my deepest apologies to everybody who's affected by this. I'll talk about this later. We're taking Autotech, which is an independent business unit, and effectively promoting it to be a new subsidiary to increase the speed of its decision-making, to expand external funding opportunities and broaden strategic options. We announced today an MOU with Ichigo, who is our 80% shareholder. I'm also from Ichigo. I'm obviously not been involved in this transaction because I'm a related party. This was something that JDI asked for Ichigo, not the other way around. We have a desire to pay down our 65 billion yen of debt. We're going to do that by transferring the Mobile fab to them and part of our IP. Again, I'll talk about this later. The final bullet point is I will be resigning to take responsibility for our business performance. We have not hit our targets. CEOs need to kind of win. We need to get things done, as we say we're gonna do. I haven't gotten it done, and I need to take a responsibility for that. So I will be stepping down, and Jun Akema will be our new CEO from June 1st. At the same time, I not only need to take a responsibility, I need to be responsible. So I have been involved in today's actions, which I think provide the basis for us to have an ongoing JDI. So Scott Callan, the CEO, is going to end. JDI is not going to end. We're going to run forward harder and faster, and I'll explain some of the actions that we've taken on that. I will also be staying as chairman, a non-executive chairman, without compensation. I have an ongoing responsibility to shareholders to make sure JDI runs forward, but I am stepping down to take responsibility. We haven't hit our numbers. Somebody needs to take a responsibility for that, and I am. Broad overview is automotive business has been kind of relatively flat year on year. There's been a little bit lower sales on discontinuing low margin products, a little bit of lower end customer demand. Things have gotten a little bit shaky in the world. As I mentioned, we're taking Autotech to become a subsidiary, and we think that's interesting. And the Ishikawa Multifab is going to be a founder for that business. Smartwatch and VR has been harder. A little bit of loss of demand on the part of our end customers in both spaces. We are again focusing the Ishikawa Multifab on higher margin products, which will be our path running forward. And EVP is going to transition to a fabless model. This is a strategic exit, so the fact that it's going down to zero is in part is directly part of the plan. Earnings were bad. I mean, there's no other way to put it. This is why we're making all the changes we're making. Sales being down 96% in a non-core business, that was, of course, part of the plan. But we need to do something radically different, and we are. So I am gonna jump ahead. I mean, there's a lot of material. I'll have to take questions on it. But okay, things are not going per plan. What are you gonna do? That's the key issue here. By the way, I would point out that we're not putting out a forecast right now. That's because we're doing a whole bunch of things, a whole bunch of good things, and we think there's upside. But when you have kind of like the super volatility based on what things are going to happen, it doesn't make sense to put out numbers that we're possibly going to have to rework. And because we are a careful Japanese firm with auditors, and they look at our forecasts, and we put out numbers that we think reflect kind of a realistic view, perhaps, of what the upside looks like. They may not be happy with it, so they want us to put out low numbers, but the low numbers are not necessarily realistic. So I don't think it's a negative that we're not putting out a forecast right now. We'll put out a forecast as soon as possible to get kind of more insights, heightened visibility on the details and the number of things that we're doing. Here's what's most important. I announced the workforce reduction today. We were too slow, and this is my responsibility in taking out costs. We had a number of opportunities or upside opportunities. We worked on them. I think the structural drag on profitability in this business is big. We've come to understand that. We came to understand it last year, which is why we made the cutover to the Beyond Display strategy in November. But it's not enough for us to build new revenue opportunities. We need to build a better cost structure. And so we were absolutely hammering on costs. So you'll see up above, you get kind of strategy execution. So this is going to be earnings growth that comes out of moving to more profitable businesses. That gives us plus 12 billion yen. These numbers are strong numbers, meaning kind of the solid numbers, we're going to hit them. But the truth of the matter is, anytime you do something that is related to how you're going to interact with customers actually have their own kind of issues and demands and needs. And so those numbers can move around a bit based on what customer activity looks like. Again, I'll re-emphasize the point. We have really shrunk down our product portfolio to customer products where customers need us and want to work with us. But so these are solid numbers, but nothing is as solid as what you can control. And we can really control most of your costs. So as you can see on the page, we're taking down our costs by 56 billion yen, which is massive. And the result of that is this. So if the question is, what are you doing that's different? It's this. We're hammering our costs. So the closure of the Mobara fab, the closure of the Tottori fab, today's announced workforce reduction, other activity across the board on our costs, literally is, in the numbers I just showed you, we could not be profitable even at 300 billion yen of sales within 18 months, because we're taking all these actions now. The Mobara fab closes, which is the biggest source of our losses, by March of 2026. The workforce reduction all happens this year. We get our break-even point down 80%. This is the most important thing to know about where JDI is going. With apologies for my failure to deliver on what we needed to deliver up until now, which brings me to an end as CEO. This is not the end of JDI. This is the beginning. We need not only a better strategy, which migrates us out of the chronic losses of the display business, and that beyond display gets us there. We need a better cost structure, and we're hitting it and hammering it hard. JDI starts from now. The strategy is called Beyond Display. Everything is focused on this. It's holistic. It takes our core capabilities and puts them into areas that are high growth. And I'll talk about that a little bit in detail. We need the right conditions to win, the right technology, the right cost structure, the right speed and flexibility, the right financial stability, the right geopolitical position, and we have those. The fundamental insight in terms of the change of the business strategy is we're moving from mass market displays, which operate what we call the enlargement principle. I mean, big displays are better. It means that every year your substrate, you're making bigger displays on it, you get less product per substrate, your economics get worse over time. That's just the fundamental reality of mass market displays. It means you, in order to try to keep your economics up, you need to have increasingly large sizes of the substrates, which requires CapEx to move to next new generation. It's just a very, very difficult business to run any degree of a fab without going to the latest generation. So you go from G22 to G3.5 to G4.5 to G6 to G8 to G10 to G10.5. So this is an industry that has worsened economics over time. The Chinese government regards it correctly as a strategic industry. They support the CapEx from their participants who are actually very good and have the additional advantage of this massive government support. It is a terrible business, and so we're shifting from the right to the left. We're going into businesses, semiconductor sensors, and micro displays that operate on minorization principle. The smaller it is, the better. It means that you get more out of your substrate or wafer over time. You can improve your economics over time. This is the fundamental change that had to happen and is happening with a Beyond Display strategy. Let me talk a little bit about some of the announcements we made. I touched on it today. Look, the Beyond Display is about us becoming better, faster, expanding the range of options. You can think about it as we effectively promoted an independent business unit to a subsidiary. It gives you the three advantages that we have on the bottom of the page. You can get independent management decisions and rapid decision making. Expands possibilities for external funding. We can, and this is with customers, for example, who are really interested in our auto tech technology set. It includes the ability to expand future strategic options. I mean, we could do some realignment of the global industry with who are currently competitors and become partners, and so we think this is helpful in terms of the broad contribution of what we're trying to do with Beyond Display. Let's have the best possible operating structure in order to win. We are, as I said earlier, with apologies to all of our employees globally. It's a very hard decision, and it's the only one that we could have made. If you look at our numbers, it's not enough to grow revenues. We've got to take out costs, and so we were doing a global workforce reduction. We went and spoke with our union in Japan today. We need to have conversations globally based on kind of every location's labor rules and labor practices, and take out headcount. The annual cost savings that we have on the page, this is Japan only. So we will have global activity this year that will give us even more cost savings. As I mentioned earlier, we are going to transfer our Mabara fab to Ichigo. You should think of this as a bridge. Ichigo will then kind of on-sell it to as an AI data center. We expect to get some participation in the upside for that as JDI in that sale, and we'll transfer certain display related IP to Ichigo. And the advantage of this is we pay down the debt. I mean, the 65 billion yen of debt sitting in front of the shareholders, right? Shareholder value comes after you take care of debt holders, so getting rid of this is hugely advantageous. I mean, in terms of shrinking enterprise value, putting shareholders in the front of the line, and also cutting the interest costs so that we can have a quicker path to profitability. Ishikawa becomes a multi-fab. We were thinking about putting G6 equipment in it. We actually have decided to keep it as a G4.5 fab on the display side. Look, we want to do more in the beyond display area. The G6 we ended up deciding was more legacy than forward-looking, and it makes more sense to focus our resources on G4.5 displays, micro displays, et cetera, that fit into that substrate well, semiconductors and sensors. As I said, mobile becomes a data center, and we're in the process of doing that, but it's going to be ultimately completed by Ichigo rather than JDI. And that's kind of the broad framework for beyond display. I mentioned OLEDWorks, so let me just talk a little bit about that. It's another 40 pages. You should all feel comfortable. I'm not going to talk to you for 40 more pages. Thank you for your patience listening. But just to step into a little bit on, I think what's really exciting. Look, I think we all know that Foxconn had a plan to go to the U.S. and build a display fab in Wisconsin. That did not work out. The costs were way too high. What I think is really powerful is the work we're doing with OLEDWorks right now to bring up a fab in the United States using an existing facility, so it will be very low cost, using existing equipment, which is likely to come from JDI, again, very low cost. So the opportunity is to do something really powerful in the U.S. that's low cost. And the fundamental challenge has been, how do you do this with the right cost structure? Because costs in this business are absolutely fundamental to delivering what customers need. And the Chinese are the cost leaders in this, and you want to be competitive. And we have a path, we believe, to achieve that. So it is really exciting and something I look forward to. Well, it may not be me, because I'm stepping down as CEO, but we as JDI look forward to showing you that path as we go forward. I would add, I am staying as chairman. I'll be a non-executive role. There are things like OLEDWorks which I can play a role in. I will continue to play that role. But my job is as CEO is coming to an end, and I will support the new management team in any way possible in a role as non-executive chairman. I think I'll bring it to an end there. As I say, there's a lot of material here. This is a very robust, holistic strategy rooted in the right kind of business model, the right economics industry that we're going to be in, the right cost structure. It's what I said earlier in terms of having the right of everything in order to win in this space. I'm happy to take any questions, if any from the people in the audience.
It appears we have no questions today. We appreciate your time and attention during this briefing. Thank you very much for joining us today, and we look forward to our next meeting.
Thank you, everybody. We run forward.